Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dharma Helper, and this is DH Reviews. This is my Season 1, Episode 8 review of Constantine. If you missed any of my previous Constantine reviews, there will be a link in the description of this video, as well as an annotation behind me on the screen. You can click either of those, and they will take you right to the Constantine playlist that has all of my Constantine reviews in it. I also do Scorpion reviews, Gotham reviews, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews, and the links for those will be in the description of this video as well if you're interested in my thoughts on those series. With that being said, Season 1, Episode 8 of Constantine was called The Saint of Last Resort, and in this episode, Anne-Marie, a member of the Newcastle group, enlists the help of Constantine in defeating a very powerful, evil figure that has been kidnapping babies for some nefarious purpose. And in this episode, we get a lot of information about Newcastle, about Constantine, about Zed, about the rising darkness. This is a very information-heavy episode. And so that kind of covers the story of the episode. Let's talk about the characters, and let's begin with Constantine. Constantine, in this episode, we learn that he and Anne-Marie had a relationship in the past that Constantine had sort of screwed up in the way that Constantine tends to screw things up. And we see more in this episode than ever. We see the distance and the coldness of Constantine. And Chaz in this episode says that he does that for a reason. You know, he has to be as distant and as cold as he is just by the fact of the nature of the work that he does. And that was kind of interesting to see that and the repercussions of that, not necessarily on other people, but on a personal level for Constantine. Because it's clear to me that Constantine cares very deeply for Anne-Marie, and he cared very deeply for her at one point. And the idea of him recognizing that, just on a personal level, sort of recognizing that, okay, I have to keep these people distant. I have to keep these people far away from me. I have to be very cold and steeled off. That, on a personal level, was interesting to explore. We've seen the effects that has on other people, but I think we see more now the effect that has on Constantine. And sort of wrap up my thoughts on Constantine. Again, he's very distant. He has that scene where he's talking to those parents about there's more we can do than just pray. And then at the end of the episode, he's shot, and he says, there's no price too high to pay for the life of an innocent. And, he's shot. And so, to me, for the next half of the season, what I'd like to see is a shift in Constantine. Being shot, being on a near-death experience, that will change somebody. And we need to see that on the screen. We need to see that with Constantine. We need to see that this has changed him in some way. What that does or what that is going to be interesting to see, but there needs to be a shift, I think. And so that covers my thoughts on Constantine. Let's talk about Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, as I said, was a member of the Newcastle group, and through her we learned that in addition to Constantine, Anne-Marie, Chaz, who I assume Chaz is there, and if they said it explicitly, I missed it or I forget, but I assume that he was there. Archie, or Richie, or whatever the guy's name is. I keep calling him Archie, but apparently Richie is his name. And then Gary. In addition to those five, there was one other person, Jody, who was there. And we haven't seen Jody yet. I'm interested to see what her life is like now that Newcastle has happened, and what her role in Newcastle was. But speaking to Anne-Marie's role in Newcastle and what happened with her, again, she was a romantic interest for Constantine, and then Newcastle happened, and Constantine cheated on her, basically, and so she ran away and was hiding in a convent of nuns and stuff, and her way to deal with that was to give her life to God and to hide and to be this nun. And over the course of this episode, I think she starts to realize that hiding away and doing all this sort of stuff is not going to work, and so she over the course of the episode, she starts to step up, and ultimately she shoots Constantine. And so I think in addition to the shift that we'll see in Constantine, we need to see a shift in Anne-Marie. And speaking about Anne-Marie, we learn that she introduced Constantine to the occult, to all this dark magic. So there's probably a great deal of guilt or blame that she feels. If you follow that sort of butterfly effect chain of events all the way to Newcastle, there's probably a great deal of guilt that she feels and a great deal of blame that she puts on herself. And that needs to come into play. And I think that does come into play almost in a Frankenstein's monster sort of way where, you know, she might have created Constantine. And I think that was an interesting idea to explore. And I think that lends a lot of weight to her decision to sacrifice Constantine. And that they were able to give that much weight and that much depth to a character in one episode was really impressive to me. And I liked the character of Anne-Marie, and I want to see more from her. And now that she's almost accepted this call to action of, you know, shooting Constantine and this decision to stop hiding, what will she become this next half of the season? And what will we see from her in the next half of the season? And so that's kind of her for the episode. The last person I want to talk about in the episode is Zed, and they do something very different that they've been doing, different than what they've been doing in previous episodes. What we saw was, you know, that we would have a set of characters go to the map location and solve that problem, and then, you know, some characters might be absent, some characters might take 1 or 2 episodes off. And in this episode, that's not the case. In this episode, Chaz and Constantine go to solve the problem with the vampires and the Sisters of Eden and all that stuff. And Zed is left in Jasper's cabin. And rather than having the episode off, we get a lot of information about Zed's past. We learn that her real name is Mary. We learn that her father is a member or a leader of this organization called the Crusaders. And we learn that they were using her or abusing her abilities and gifts as part of a grander plan. And so they sent that guy to kidnap her and bring her back to her father. And there was a whole fight sequence. And ultimately, Zed is kidnapped. And so I enjoyed that whole sequence and that whole idea of getting more information about Zed leading into the second half of the season. And I think it's going to be important to address that immediately out of the gate, just like they left it here. And they did a very good job of addressing everything and answering everything in terms of this finale. But I think it's going to be important to address that out of the gate. And how that the sort of reveal affects her position on the team is going to be interesting to take a look at. Does Constantine know who these Crusaders are? Or is this an organization like an Illuminati type organization where they're very secretive? What are their goals? What are their means? What do they want Zed for? These are all interesting questions for the episode to ask and for the later half of the season hopefully to answer. So that's Zed for the episode, and that kind of covers my thoughts on characters for the episode. So my overall thoughts on the episode were that it was a fantastic mid-season finale, and I'm glad that we got all this information about, you know, now we know that the rising darkness was caused by something called the Brujeria, who are trying to erase the barrier between hell and earth, so that demons and stuff can sort of walk the earth freely and rule the earth and stuff like that. We learned that Zed, again, is running from the Crusaders and all this different stuff about Zed. We learned all this stuff about Constantine and about the Newcastle group. And a criticism that might make a little bit of sense is that this was dumped on us very suddenly and very abruptly. But to that, I agree. I agree with some respect to that. But in some respect, I have to point this out, that I think that it was intentionally dropped on us very suddenly. We have as much time to process this information and to figure this out as Constantine does and as Zed does, respectively, with sort of what's going on with both of them. And I think that was intentional, and I think that brings us into the mindset of these characters in a way that makes a lot of sense, and it drew me, I think, into the story a little bit better, having all of this sort of rush up against us, and then Zed's kidnapped, Constantine's shot. You know, we have all that information, and now we have our characters in a lot of distress. So the processing period is it reflects the characters, reflects the audience. I think that was intentional, and if it wasn't intentional, it certainly was an unintended consequence in my respect, because that's what I took out of it, was a sense of things are happening way too fast to process, and there's a very immediate danger, and I'm very invested in what's going on. One thing I did want to mention, wrapping up my thoughts on the episode, was that now we have, for the second half of the season, we have a very clear path. We have a very clear call to action. We have a very clear mission statement. Our mission statement number 1 is to save Constantine and to figure out what's going on with Constantine and to rescue him and to heal him back up. Our mission statement number 2 is to save Zed and to heal her back up and to rescue her. Our mission statement number 3 is to figure out what's going on with the Brujeria and what they want these babies for and what other sort of things they have in store, and to stop them and to restore that barrier between hell and earth. So that they were able to give us a very clear mission statement for the second half of the season, I think is a huge point in the series' favor and a huge point in the episode's favor. You know, they didn't leave us out in the lurch. They didn't leave us with nothing. And that was important that they did that for this episode. So with all that being said, guys, I very much enjoyed this mid-season finale. And if you did, I want to know. Hit me up on Twitter @TheDHReviews, or comment down below with your thoughts on the episode, your thoughts on my review. Do you disagree with what I said? Do you agree with what I said? What do you think about the Brujeria? What do you think about all of this being dumped on us at once? What do you think about Constantine and his sort of way of going about things, but also his fate as, you know, he's being shot? What do you think about the Crusaders and Zed? What do you think about this mysterious woman Jody, and when we'll see her maybe, and what her role in the Newcastle thing was, and what her role will be moving forward? What do you think about Anne Marie, and what her role will be moving forward, and whether or not she will heed this call to action and sort of see that no price is high enough to pay to save the life of an innocent? So her hiding and cowering will have to stop. What do you think about all that? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on Twitter. If you enjoyed this review, leave a like. That helps the channel out a lot. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and share these videos on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter. All of those things will help grow the channel, and I appreciate all your support thus far. Again, my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. live stream review will be out for the channel later this week. Tune in on that, and you will see a lot of new information about the channel and what we're going to be doing here in the winter months. With all that being said, again, thank you guys so much for your support for this first half of the channel, first half of the season. A lot of stuff are coming to an end, and a lot of stuff are beginning and picking up. So we'll see what happens here on the channel, and we'll see if we can continue this momentum and continue to grow. And hopefully we can, because I'm having fun, and I hope you are as well. And that'll do it for this video. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Dharma Helper. This has been DH Reviews, and I will see you in the next video.